Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Han Zong. I am at the SSS level, and I have taken over the server with Ziyun. Lu Yu crossed over to the cold country. Wake up in the ward and be taken away for various experiments. Looking at Director Bai in front of him, he suddenly realized that this was the world of witches. But fortunately, the system has awakened. Any substance that enters the body will become its own stronger energy. Neurochemicals appear in the body, intelligence +1, eating, physical fitness +1, taking temporary damage, temporary strength +1, under the influence of the system. Not only did he not have any side effects, but he was even stronger than the witch. After killing out of the laboratory, the team sent by Director Bai was easily controlled by Lu Yu. Punching Director Cui, kicking and pretending to be male, the laboratories of the Institute of Superhuman Studies were dismantled one by Lu Yu.Ju Ziyun. In terms of strategy, I cannot compare to himWitch sister. Oba is too strong for me to fight. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Crossing the world of witches, am I an experimental subject? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On a solitary mountain, the cold wind passes by with a gentle breeze. A giant building ahead, enveloped in the darkness, is both mysterious and terrifying. And in this giant building, there are many secrets preserved, isolated from the world but brightly lit. Building experimental building. In a dilapidated small room. Wow! After the collision of an iron chain, Lu Yu felt dizzy, but he still managed to open his eyes reluctantly. Grass. He has traveled through time. Not only did it cross, but it also crossed borders. The current environment is in the laboratory of the movie Witch. His identity is that of an experimental subject. However, it cannot compare to the SS Level Ju Ziyun in the original plot. According to Director Bai's level, he is only a C. level. It has to be said that the last movie recommendation that Lu Yu wrote on the internet in his past life was the Witch series. Who would have thought that this recommendation would make people travel here directly? Immediately, Lu Yu closed his eyes and began to feel the changes on his body. His condition is not as good as imagined. Indeed, there is a considerable power hidden within his body, but now this power has been suppressed and sealed tightly within his body. This is a weak type of medication injected, not to mention standing up. Lu Yu can't even break free from the handcuffs on his hands. What a sin! At this moment, Lu Yu looked uncomfortable and had no idea how to solve the current predicament. However, Lu Yu's only advantage now is that he knows everything. He has watched countless times just for the movie, the Witch series. Otherwise, it is also impossible to speak freely on the internet. He understands the plot, so he knows that the top priority now is to escape from this laboratory building. This experiment already had serious hidden dangers, as Yun in the Witch series had nosebleeds and side effects such as headaches. And once you activate your abilities, you will only have 3 months of remaining lifespan, which is very unfortunate. If the antidote is not found, then Lu Yu will also face the same situation. Stay. Impossible, the Great Purge is coming soon. Leaving behind his level of waste, will undoubtedly die. What should I do? At this moment, Lu Yu frowned, and there was only time left that was unclear. And now my hands are tied with iron chains, unable to move a single move. When Lu Yu was overthinking, the door was pushed open. The light outside the door shone into the dark and damp room. The newcomer had loose hair and was wearing a white coat, followed by 2 soldiers behind him. This person is the old witch that Lu Yu hates to the bone in his memory. Director Bai. There was no trace of emotion on her face, she just calmly looked at Lu Yu sitting on the ground. Take him away. Prepare for today's experiment. A few cold words appeared from Director Bai's lips. Lu Yu's heart was filled with despair. Do you want to experiment again? Without waiting for Lu Yu to struggle, the two soldiers behind him, one on each side, flew out with landing feathers. He was exceptionally weak, and now even lifting one arm was very difficult, let alone struggling to resist in the hands of two soldiers. Laboratory, medical room. Lu Yu lay on the bed like this, but his limbs were still locked. And the few people in front of them are the scumbags like doctors in my memory. Sleeping slot. Lu Yu let out a low cry of pain, and the needle inserted directly into his body. For him, this is a new round of torture. And at that moment when Lu Yu was in pain and his spirit was somewhat scattered, a warning sound came to my mind. Ding, detect abnormal substances entering the host's body. The talent for binge eating has now awakened. Binding successful. Before Lu Yu was close to fainting, he listened to the content of the system closely. Any substance or energy that enters the host's body will be transformed by the system. This includes food, drugs, such as bullets shot into the body, strong toxins, and any substance ingested into the host's body can be converted into nutrients, providing reinforcement and phagocytosis to the host's body. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. The weak chicken finds the weak chicken. You have already planned it. You are listening at novel full.audio. I don't know how long this feeling of confusion has lasted. A somewhat harsh, but also somewhat familiar broadcast sound sounded. Lu Yu slowly opened his eyes and found himself still in the dimly lit room, but this time, his hands were not locked. Feeling the changes in my body, those feelings of weakness and exhaustion have disappeared. Nowadays, with a system in place, no one can use external forces to affect Lu Yu's physical condition. The sound of this broadcast is very familiar to Lu Yu, and it is the prompt for eating every day. At this time every day, Lu Yu can also see other experimental subjects. Because it is a collective cafeteria. The soldiers gradually opened the doors to the rooms, and Lu Yu walked out with the flow of people. Lu Yu discovered that there were quite a few experimental subjects here, basically the same size as himself. After walking out of the corridor, following the landmark instructions on the ground, Lu Yu found this collective cafeteria. Looking around for a moment, there were about 10 children of the same age as me walking in groups. These people are all experimental subjects. And next to the exits on both sides of the cafeteria, there are many soldiers guarding. There are 4 soldiers guarding the gate, fully armed and carrying light firearms in their arms. I saw Lu Yu quietly eating and then sneaking into the middle of a group of experimental subjects, starting to eat. On the surface, Lu Yu is showing off his food in big gulps. In fact, everything in this cafeteria was being scanned by Lu Yu. When observing the position in the back corner, a faint gleam flashed in Lu Yu's eyes. That's right, the person he's looking for has appeared. I saw a young girl sitting quietly at the back eating alone. She has a black shawl, short hair, delicate features, and an angelic face. It looks harmless to humans and animals, and even some cute little girls. However, it's the kind of guy who looks like a nobody that cannot be underestimated. She is the key figure in the big cleanup incident. Yu Ziyun. She looks like a little girl, but in fact, she is a first-class horror character. Those who have watched The Witch know how terrifying Yu Ziyun is in the plot. She is not a night walker, but she can move instantly. She is not the Magneto King, but she can control objects with her consciousness. She is not a Wolverine, but she has abnormal repair ability. This is not a superhero, but it surpasses superheroes everywhere. That violent, bloody, and exhilarating battle scene is still remembered by Lu Yu. After quickly grabbing 2 meals, Lu Yu walked straight like Yu Ziyun. He actually sat directly next to Yu Ziyun, with his arm resting directly on Yu Ziyun's shoulder. Cough cough, Ziyun, when did you celebrate your birthday? Asked, pretending to be affectionate. Lu Yu's action undoubtedly gave Yu Ziyun a jump, although Ju Ziyun can remain absolutely calm when facing many things. At this moment, I still swallowed my saliva. I thought to myself, what kind of strange person is this? Why did you suddenly pretend to be very familiar with yourself today? Besides, what are you doing with this? Next week. At this moment, Zhu Ziyun took a bite of rice and whispered. Next week. In that moment, Lu Yu immediately sorted out the timeline. It seems that I must use the system to become as strong as possible during this period of time. Watching Lu Yu remain silent for a long time, Zhu Ziyun sneered. He thought there was something, but it turned out to be just a silly hat. Can be done in the next second. Her pupils began to contract violently, and even the hair on her body stood up. Ziyun, are you planning to escape from here, right? How do we collaborate? To cover up, when Lu Yu said these words, his smile was very bright. Ziyun slowly put down the spoon in his hand, as if he had forgotten to chew everything in his mouth. She raised an eyebrow and looked at Landiu. This guy is indeed not as simple as he appears on the surface. My own plan is seamless, how did I know about it? Since he knows. So Dr. Bai, although he was lost in thought, Zhu Ziyun shook his head and a blush intentionally appeared on his face. Obama. What are you talking about? I can't understand. Zhu Ziyun pretended to be innocent and said. She can't admit it, she still doesn't trust Lu Yu. The next second, Lu Yu hugged Zhu Ziyun's fragrant shoulder and leaned his face towards it. This made Zhu Ziyun feel a bit disorganized, and the blush on her face turned from fake to real, making her whole person start to feel shy. The effect of hesitant medication is that most children here are precocious. With your current strength, you can indeed escape, but risks also exist. If you follow me, listen to me. I can definitely take you out. At this moment, Lu Yu lowered his voice and said. This statement is so easy to say, but Zhu Ziyun really doesn't believe it. In terms of physical fitness, Lu Yu ranks last in his daily grades. Just rely on him. How do you make me believe this? At this moment, Zhu Ziyun looked at Lu Yu meaningfully and said. Lu Yu guessed early on. There's no blame for Zhu Ziyun either. You still have a younger sister, right? I understand her information very well. She has great potential, even stronger than you, but she hasn't developed yet. Don't be fooled by her current level of B. With your current strength, you want to escape, TSK, it's impossible. At this moment, Lu Yu said with a smashing sound. Unlike Zhu Ziyun, her younger sister, with a talent of SS, is a second-generation witch. Although they all look like witches, they are actually very different. The first generation of which Zhu Ziyun focuses on physical fitness, while the second generation focuses on spiritual strength. There is a big gap between the B. level of the first generation and the B. level of the second generation, which means that now her sister's level is even on the same level as Mr. Cui's. After listening to Lu Yu's words, Zhu Ziyun's eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Her sister. From the moment she was born, she carried a hint of memory. It was all infancy and she had never seen much of it. How did Lu Yu know? At this point, Zhu Ziyun's attitude towards Lu Yu also changed, and she began to believe in Lu Yu. Before she could say anything, the experimenters appeared. When the time is up, all the subjects will immediately return to the room. After speaking, all the experimental subjects began to disperse. The strength of this person's speech is evident. The two of Lu Yu were also helpless and walked towards the door. As soon as I walked to the door, I was spotted by a few people. It's a few little brats, both experimental subjects. His mental state is far inferior to that of Zhu Ziyun, but he also has a mind in his teens. Yo! Did two weak chickens come together? No wonder the weak chicken is so suitable. Ha ha ha. Accompanied by the words of the male leader, the people around also began to mock. Little did they know that Lu Yu's predecessor was indeed so weak that he died during the process of administering medicine. Yu.Ju Ziyun is not. They are pretending to be weak. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Beating the Implite Stinky Boy and Witch. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On weekdays, seeing this situation, Lu Yu couldn't even avoid it. But after seeing it today, the corner of Lu Yu's mouth curved slightly. This is a great opportunity to leverage the topic. Lu Yu strode forward and extended his palm, which had been stuck in his pocket. The boy led by him had a proud expression on his face, but he was still curious about Lu Yu, who was usually timid. Before this boy can think it through, he just feels his perspective spinning around. Next second. Lu Yu slapped the boy in the face with a big punch, using half of his strength. The boy was bombarded by this tremendous force and couldn't find the southeast, northwest. He tilted his head and flew out uncontrollably. He sprayed blood from his mouth and nose, and even his teeth were blown out several times by Lu Yu's punch. What's going on? I usually bully Lu Yu like this. This kid not only talks back, but also speaks well of himself. What exactly did this guy smoke today? At this moment, Lu Yu looked arrogant and made an international gesture directly to the boy. Is he weak or am I weak? Let's have a fight and see. As soon as a fight broke out, Lu Yu felt a violent thought rush into his mind. This is precisely because of the medication. Their generation, centered around witches, focuses on physical fitness. The purpose of the experiment is also to strengthen the motor nerves and violence coefficient. So, for those who have undergone the experiment, as long as they survive, most of their personalities are quite arrogant and even very dragging. Being slapped by Lu Yufan is the same for this guy. He is just a weak chicken, and under normal circumstances, Lu Yu is not his opponent. But this slap was so powerful that it blew him away completely. Watching everyone around him looking at him, he felt his face fall to the ground and he was stomped on by Lu Yu several times. I suddenly feel a dull expression on my face. Are you looking for death, kid? How dare you pretend in front of me? The boy glared fiercely at Landiu. The next second, Lu Yu's speed was extremely fast, and a punch struck again. You're just a weakling. The boy also wanted to resist and punched Lu Yu directly, but before he could punch him, Lu Yu quickly disappeared into place. Bang! When Lu Yu's figure reappeared, it had already circled behind him. A punch hit the back of his head, and the next second his face made a close contact with the ground. Haha! The boy was grinning from the impact of these two punches, lying on the ground for a long time unable to stand up. However, Lu Yu did not intend to let him go. He rode behind him and punched the opponent like a machine gun. It wasn't until the boy stopped making a sound that he finally gave up. Shiba, what's wrong with this guy? He's just a weak chicken. himWitch unexpectedly lost to such a weak chicken. Impossible, brother himWitch. The group of onlookers widened their eyes and found it difficult to accept the scene in front of them. And the boy who just looked arrogant had already been beaten to the ground by Lu Yu, unable to say a word. Thanks to the benefits given to him by the system during this period, otherwise, Lu Yu also knew that he was definitely not a match for this boy. But before Lu Yu could do anything else, a whistle sounded. Countless soldiers rushed forward and forcibly separated Lu Yu and the others. And at this moment, Lu Yu was also under control. If Lu Yu wanted to, he was now fully capable of overturning these two soldiers, but he still endured it. You need to disguise yourself enough now. And the female demon Director Bai slowly walked to the scene. A glimmer of brilliance flashed in her eyes. Surprisingly, Lu Yu won. That inconspicuous and constantly excluded Lu Yu. It has become stronger. At this moment, Dr. Bai looked at the controlled Lu Yu and began to murmur to himself. The previously weak Lu Yu has disappeared, and the power he unleashed has been recognized. Take him away. Dr. Bai didn't say much, just greeted the soldiers and left on his own. Lu Yu also knew what he was about to face, but this time, he was no longer timid. After arriving at the laboratory, multiple physical examinations were conducted on Lu Yu. But just checking still doesn't show anything. Test it, my child. Let me see your progress. At this moment, Dr. Bai smiled affectionately at Lu Yu. This old witch is really skilled at bewitching people. If it weren't for the overnight plot of Lu Yu, the people who were deceived by this old witch would definitely be numb. After connecting to the instrument, Lu Yu is not foolish and will definitely not unleash his true strength. After multiple tests, he concealed his own strength. A strange gaze flashed in Dr. Bai's eyes. Physically, it's just slightly beyond that of a normal child. However, based on observing various data on Lu Yu's body just now, Dr. Bai is still very satisfied. Lu Yu's body is still different from that of an ordinary person. The reagents used in the experiment are absorbed faster than anyone else. This also gave Dr. Bai a unique idea. This child's progress is slow, it must be due to insufficient medication supply. Start the experiment and record the data. At this moment, Dr. Bai gave an order and the doctors around him poured out their hearts. Still the same way that Lu Yu is familiar with, tie him up in all sorts of ways and start injecting medication into his body. Puzzy. I saw the needle continuously piercing into Lu Yu's body. The experiment is also being tested in a loop after another round. This pain made Lu Yu grimace in pain, but no one noticed that the corners of his mouth were smiling. Although his body is painful, his heart is feeling dark and refreshed. In my mind, constantly hearing system prompts. Succeeded in swallowing the drug. Strength plus 1.2. Succeeded in swallowing the drug. Agility plus 1.1. Succeeded in swallowing the drug. The system prompt sound in his mind kept ringing, and Lu Yu's heart was filled with excitement. After the experiment was over, the soldiers returned to the dark and damp room with landing feathers. At this moment, Dr. Bai locked the door of the laboratory and slowly took out his phone. The sickly expression of satisfaction on his face is hard to conceal. I have discovered another excellent seedling, it seems that this time may be able to solve the problem of side effects. I don't know who the other person is, but after saying this, Dr. Bai hung up the phone. As soon as I turned around, I found a little girl standing outside the laboratory door. She caught tears in her eyes, looking pitiful and delicate. It's Yu.Ju Ziyun. Seeing the appearance of Yu.Ju Ziyun, Dr. Bai regained his kind expression. Dr. Bai, can I go see Obama? Obama fought because. It was because of me. At this moment, Yu.Ju Ziyun's tears fell to the ground in large drops, pitiful to the extreme. Okay. Go ahead, Ziyun. At this moment, Dr. Bai patted Yu.Ju Ziyun's shoulder and did not see any clues. In Lu Yu's room, intermittent cries could be heard. Obama, why are you so foolish? Don't be so foolish in the future, okay? Promise me. At this moment, Yu.Ju Ziyun placed Lu Yu's head on his thigh, and what he said was like tears streaming down his face. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. I treat you as my husband and you treat me as your daughter. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the surface, Yu.Ju Ziyun was crying and showing her concern to Lu Yu, but in reality, the two were secretly discussing cooperation issues. Lu Yu's strength has been seen by Yu.Ju Ziyun, and he did not deceive himself. The boy who was just knocked down by Lu Yu still has some reputation in this experimental body. And the most important thing is that Lu Yu actually knows his sister. This display of omniscience and omnipotence is not just for fun. So now she believes in Lu Yu and is willing to listen to his plan. And Lu Yu was lying next to Ju Ziyun. Lu Yu smiled lightly at the corner of his mouth and touched Ju Ziyun's face. Just listen to me. At this moment, there was a hint of confidence on Lu Yu's face, as if he had already figured everything out. Who is Ju Ziyun? Witch. How could a witch sink and float in one person in just a few words? This is difficult to tame. Dr. Bai, this scumbag, has not been able to control Ju Ziyun. Humph, why should I listen to you? At this moment, a slight crease squeezed out between Yu Ziyun's eyebrows. She met Lu Yu by chance, but if she had to follow Lu Yu's arrangements in all aspects of action, Ju Ziyun wouldn't want to. This path of revenge is long and profound, and full of danger. If something unexpected happens, Ju Ziyun will receive a devastating blow. It's not enough time to think about this kind of thing in the long run, and it's too reckless to rush and hit. Ju Ziyun, listen carefully. I chose you because you deserve it. And now, you also understand my purpose of hiding my strength. I'm just trying to figure out the security situation here. I chose to take you out because you are qualified and have great potential. And it looks good too. At this moment, Lu Yu said calmly. Upon hearing these words, Ju Ziyun bit his lips, feeling as if he had been remotely controlled. But now she knows everything she wants to do, and she can't take any risks. The conversation between the two remained silent. Under surveillance, it was still visible, with the two children crying and laughing at intervals. It's like playing house, no one would have any doubts about these two children. It's just two crane tails. 3 days later. Lu Yu walked out of the laboratory with a weak face and stumbled into the hall to sit up. Of course, he pretended everything. All the drugs were injected into his body, only turning into nourishment. However, in this, Lu Yu still needs to pack one. After all, it cannot be exposed yet. If he were to be tossed and turned around in the laboratory, Lu Yu would still appear lively and energetic. I estimate I will be immediately locked up and tested in a more secret place. These scumbags will never let Lu Yu go. In this quiet corner, no one disturbed Lu Yu. He squinted his eyes and for the first time called out his attribute panel directly. Host. Lu Yu, Power. 22.3 Constitution. 21.7 Agile. 21.2 Intelligence. 23.1 Skill. None. Special status. None. In the past few days of hesitation, I have been frantically experimenting with myself, and Lu Yu's various data have increased by 10 points. This is almost double the increase. What concept is this? Normally trained adults, killing them by Lu Yu is like playing. In the hall, Lu Yu also discovered an interesting figure. It was Ju Ziyun, who was now alone and stunned in the hall. Lu Yu knew that it was normal for Ju Ziyun to be isolated by a bunch of little brats around him while he was thinking about a plan. This was originally intentional by her. However, it's not good to continue like this. There are too many expressions on the face that adults wouldn't show, which is very dangerous. This silly girl will eventually be spotted by others. Coincidentally, at this moment, Lu Yu had a plan in his mind and had the intention of teasing Ju Ziyun. Ziyun, hee. Are you alone? At this moment, Lu Yu walked over with a silly smile on his face. Yes. At this moment, Ju Ziyun didn't know which one Lu Yu was up to. Let's play at home. At this moment, Lu Yu's smile gradually began to become silly, far from the spiritual light in his previous eyes. Ju Ziyun took 2 steps back, but she refused from the bottom of her heart. Playing house or something, it's too foolish. We've played house before. Lu Yu kept repeating. Isn't this good? Being entangled by Lu Yu was unbearable, but there was no way for Ju Ziyun to do so. Just accept it. Because it's impossible to have an attack, if it does now. So soon he will be targeted, and now there are soldiers everywhere with guns in his arms. Okay. I play. At this moment, Yu Ziyun also reluctantly accepted. However, Lu Yu's demands have become increasingly excessive. Okay. I'll be a dad. Lu Yu directly seized a more advantageous role on his side. This made Yu Ziyun's pretty face turn red. Lu Yu wouldn't mean to say he's a mother, would he? Although this is a family game, just as Yu Ziyun was full of thoughts, Lu Yu spoke. Be your daughter. Be my daughter. Suddenly, Yu Ziyun wished he could slap a big palm on Lu Yu's face. And the blush on her pretty face faded away. I treat you as my husband, and you treat me as your daughter. What the hell? Unable to resist Lu Yu, the two of them took on such roles and kept wandering in the hall. After seeing it, the experimental companions around also pointed at it. They are all referred to as two fools. As the broadcast sounded, it was time for dinner. I have to say, the food here is really good. Lu Yu is always very good at eating. Eating twice as much as the average person. This was still slightly controlled by Lu Yu, not wanting to attract attention. These meals are all nourishment for one's own body. Under devouring, one can improve their body. Including daily medication that can enhance physical fitness. This medication is mandatory for everyone to take. After all, it is to balance the toxicity of experimental drugs every day. Also known as an antidote. If left with this antidote, the side effects will quickly engulf the body and the death will be unsightly. However, Lu Yu is completely calm, because even experimental drugs have become nutrients for his body. Good daughter, come and eat more of this. At this moment, Lu Yu smiled and picked up the vegetables for Yu Ziyun. This house of play is really understood by Lu Yu. Every time Yu Ziyun wanted to get angry, he had to endure it forcefully. The spoon in her hand has been bent. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Yu Ziyun's birthday. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As time passed, it came to the day before Yu Ziyun's birthday. In the laboratory, waves of mournful cries rang out. As the door opened, the experimental subjects walked out one by one in a daze. Their faces were tinged with fatigue, as if they had lost their souls. Eyes deeply sunken, mouth dry. And Lu Yu followed behind this group of people, stumbling. Of course, it was still put on. Even so, Lu Yu didn't forget to adjust the system panel. Host. Lu Yu, power. 26, speed. 24, endurance. 24, skill. None. Special status. None. There are many attribute points added, and the data added to each entry is undoubtedly a terrifying presence. The improvement is due to today's experiment, which increased the dosage, which is about 4 to 5 times higher than usual. Very exaggerated. Many experimental subjects died directly on the operating table. But these physicians don't care at all. Lu Yu also guessed, which proves that what Yu Ziyun said is correct. The day of major clean-up is now very close. The day of execution is about to come. And these scumbags don't care about the lifespan of the experimental body, as experiments already have a significant impact on the lifespan of the experimental body. Increasing the dosage like this is like wanting to kill them. But these demons don't care, they are just experimental subjects. It's just the object of this liquidation. All the people here, including Lu Yu, are chips of Dr. Bai. So, these physicians have become even more reckless in their attitude towards life. However, the fortunate thing is that Lu Yu has a system. All these drugs that came in have become nutrients, and now Lu Yu's body is not feeling any discomfort. On the contrary, he is very comfortable. After dinner, while the cafeteria was tidying up the plates, Lu Yu walked towards Ju Ziyun. Come on, lean your head over a bit. At this moment, Lu Yu waved to Ju Ziyun. Ju Ziyun remained motionless, thinking it was another trick from Lu Yu. Who knows what this guy's mind is thinking all day long? Daughter, be good, hurry up. At this moment, Lu Yu smiled, which made Ju Ziyun almost furious, but it was also Lu Yu's words. Make everyone around you look at both of them. Good guy. It's not enough if we don't comply now. This is what I gave you. It's been a pleasure meeting you recently. Happy birthday. At this moment, Lu Yu showed a very innocent smile. I saw that Lu Yu wore a hair clip on Ju Ziyun's head and personally put it on for her. At first, Ju Ziyun was a bit unclear, so I touched the hair clip on my hand, then took it off and placed it in the palm of my hand with a surprised expression on my face. Actually, this was prepared by Lu Yu early on. After the system is turned on, there is currently only one mall redemption system available. And the things being sold now are basically very cheap. Lu Yu now has 50 points. This card only requires 10 points. Don't look at this as just a hairpin, it actually has a great effect. As long as you wear it, you can capture the location within a radius of 10 kilometers. With just a little attention, Lu Yu can spot the precise position of Ju Ziyun. Obama, thank you. This is my first time receiving a birthday gift, thank you. At this moment, on the surface, Ju Ziyun happily accepted it and put it directly on her head. However, Ju Ziyun still has a big idea about this card issuance. For example, now. It's now time to rest at night. After looking around without anyone, she got stuck in a dead corner of the surveillance camera and pulled the hair clip off her head. Start analyzing. Do you have any eavesdropping devices or pinhole cameras? However, after a while of examination, Ju Ziyun let go of her guard. From her perspective, this is just an ordinary hair card that cannot be more ordinary. There's no big problem. Although that guy is very annoying. But the things I have chosen are quite in line with my aesthetics. At this moment, Ju Ziyun smiled lightly and put it on his head, falling asleep beautifully. Even in dreams, it's sweet. Outside the laboratory, Dr. Bai was wearing a windbreaker, with many soldiers and doctors standing behind him. Tomorrow, you all need to be more energetic. I will gather all the experimental subjects together to facilitate the execution of the clearance plan. No mistakes are allowed in this operation. Yes. The next day. Today is Ju Ziyun's birthday. The experimental subjects are mostly in the lobby, and so are Ju Ziyun and Lu Yu. The hair clip on Ju Ziyun's head shone brightly, attracting attention. And at this moment, Dr. Bai appeared. She didn't wear her old white coat, but a windbreaker. Children, pause the experiment today to check your physical condition. Let's take a day off, okay? At this moment, Dr. Bai's face was filled with false kindness. Okay. Long live Dr. Bai. At this moment, these silly children seemed to understand nothing and were still cheering. However, both Lu Yu and Ju Ziyun knew that something was about to happen, and soon, the laboratory was about to bleed. Not only that, Lu Yu also found that there are particularly many soldiers today. The number of soldiers guarding the gate has increased to 12. This has tripled the reinforcement defense. Everyone knows that big things are coming soon. Throughout the day, Ju Ziyun stayed with Lu Yu. The two of them are inseparable now. In the eyes of others, their relationship is very good and they are good friends who talk about everything. Daughter, how delicious is the food Dad cooked? Delicious. Dad is the most amazing. At this moment, in the eyes of outsiders, the two are still two fools, playing house and house. In order to be realistic, Ju Ziyun also put it together. It's so strange to call Lu Yu Dad or something. However, in the dark, the two have been observing all along. the soldiers guarding the door, along with the terrain of the entire laboratory. The two of them went crazy all the way, but in fact, they had already figured out the terrain of the entire laboratory. At night, everyone felt a bit strange in the atmosphere. Quickly, at an entrance of the cafeteria, Dr. Bai stood there with a kind expression on his face, allowing his son to come out. At this moment, Ju Ziyun put on new clothes and looked satisfied. And Dr. Bai pushed a cake cart with both hands. In an instant, all the little brats gathered around. Wow, is anyone celebrating their birthday today? Stupid you, it's Ju Ziyun. It's the birthday of Crane Tail. I really want to celebrate my birthday too. I wonder if Dr. Bai will give me a cake. Ziyun, leave a message. At this point, Dr. Bai handed the Polaroid to Ju Ziyun. In the next moment, blow out candles, make funny faces, take photos, and all in one go. On the surface, it is even more warm. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. The Great Purge is opening, I'm showing my cards, You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After cutting a piece of cake, Lu Yu sat in his seat and ate it naturally. Don't say, the cake made by the great cold man is really delicious. After swallowing a few more cakes, a systematic response came to Lu Yu's mind. Eating cake, strength plus 0.4. Seeing the increase in strength data, Lu Yu frowned. The talent for binge eating has limitations in terms of food intake, and it was during this week that Lu Yu thoroughly understood it. Not only eating and drinking, but also the increase in attributes will be attenuated. Overall, it is still necessary to classify the level of the feeding object, such as those with low energy. Even if you drink water for a whole day, you will increase your attribute energy by 0.5 within a day, and the decrease is very obvious. After drinking more, you will no longer continue to increase your attributes. Many foods, such as rice, are also included. However, the drugs in the laboratory will not be in this situation, which belongs to the category of high energy, and the decrease is not obvious. Usually, the amount of normal injection per day has not decreased significantly. Yesterday, the decrease produced 0.1, after all, the amount injected yesterday was about 5 times the usual amount. Dr. Bai injected so much, and the result of the decrease was only 0.1. Soon, the cake was eaten by the surrounding experimenters, and they were naturally excited. They don't care whose birthday it is, they only know that they don't have to suffer today and are relatively relaxed. After finishing the cake, these subjects began to play happily. No one anticipated what was about to happen. Children, I hope you have a pleasant evening today. Dr. Bai, go to the restroom and come back immediately to accompany you. At this moment, Dr. Bai smiled hypocritically and then pushed the cake cart away. At the same time, the door of the hall was directly locked. Your birthday gift has arrived. At this moment, Lu Yu walked slowly to Ju Ziyun's side and whispered. With Ju Ziyun, Lu Yu hid directly behind the cabinet that had been observed beforehand. This place is in the corner and it's basically hard to find. In addition, the lighting is dim now, and no one will notice. At this point, Lu Yu directly calls out the attribute panel. Host. Lu Yu, Power. 42.2, Constitution. 40.1, Agile. 45.9, Intelligence. 43.6, Skill. None. Special status. None. Level evaluation. B+. Seeing the increase in his attributes, especially with the B+ attribute now, Lu Yu chuckled lightly. Looking at Lu Yu's condition, Ju Ziyun frowned, somewhat puzzled. Just as Ju Ziyun wanted to further observe Lu Yu. Pop 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 pop. Outside the hall, heavy footsteps were heard, very orderly. Lu Yu and Ju Ziyun listened attentively, but these children were not so lucky. They are now immersed in joy and completely unaware. Bang! Bang! The next second, the gate was blasted out by an inexplicable force, and the iron gate was deeply dented into a large hole. And it crashed straight onto the wall like this. Sigh. Why the door? Wait. Stubborn. Stubborn. Before these children could react, they saw a row of soldiers neatly arranged at the door, holding heavy machine guns in their hands. This upright machine gun was strafing with a clattering sound, shattering everything in the room. And the unlucky experimental subjects in the front row were directly swept into sieves. There's not even a chance to scream. Ah! My legs! Help! Why is this happening? I don't want to die, help me. Ah! The hall was filled with flying chickens and dogs, and bullets mercilessly washed away these experimental subjects. Brush. The machine gun strafed for several minutes until a dense white smoke emanated from the muzzle before it could be counted. At this point, there was no longer even a mournful cry in the hall. The ground is covered with limbs and broken arms, bleeding all over the ground. Clear completed. At this moment, the leading soldier spoke to the walkie-talkie and then began to form a team. In the monitoring room, Dr. Bai was calmly watching everything that had just happened. The big cleanup has now ended, and all those headache-inducing children have died. She stood expressionless, as if the dozens of corpses lying in the hall had nothing to do with her. Cold blood was engraved on her face, and cruelty and ruthlessness were the best power for her. But suddenly, her pupils shook violently, and then she began frantically searching in the surveillance footage. She found that Ziyun and Lu Yu were missing. Despite constantly switching surveillance perspectives, Dr. Bai couldn't find the whereabouts of these two children. I didn't see it inside the body either. In order to better distinguish, Dr. Bai specifically advised that, under the conditions allowed, the face of the experimental subject should not be destroyed as much as possible. But now I can't find any trace of the two children. Where are Lu Yu-Ju Ziyun? You. Dr. Bai immediately grabbed the walkie-talkie and began asking questions. But it's still one step late. In the surveillance, she saw a scene that shook her whole life. In the surveillance footage, Lu Yu's figure flashed and appeared directly behind this group of soldiers. Pwai. I saw that Lu Yu's two fists opened the way with tremendous force, instantly killing two soldiers. The human body is fragile, and in Lu Yu's hands, killing them is no different from killing chickens. Immediately, he turned around and locked his throat, instantly squeezing the throat of another soldier. Ah! Don't! Stinky little devil, ah! Inside the walkie-talkie, screams of agony rose and fell, the screams were unbearable. It is obvious that Lu Yu has killed all these soldiers, and his technique is sharp, killing them with one strike. In the surveillance, Dr. Bai also saw it. Lu Yu, who unleashed such strength, made Dr. Bai's breathing become rapid and his body take 2 steps back. In the hall, Lu Yu threw the head of a soldier onto the ground. Just now, Lu Yu quickly killed all the soldiers in the hall with lightning speed. It was so fast that it made the scalp tingle. The soldiers had guns, but before they could even shoot, they all became the souls of Lu Yu's henchmen. Lu Yu knew that the spiritual power of the backup deployment would soon come to support him. Taking advantage of the lack of soldiers to find him, Lu Yu walked towards the back of the cabinet in the corner. At this moment, Zhu Ziyun was holding her knees with both hands and pretending to be weak. How about it? I have the ability to take you out, right? On the surface, Zhu Ziyun remained calm, but he was still startled by the power that had just erupted from Lu Yu. He has hidden his strength, and he is still so strong. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Director Cui Airborne. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. From Ju Ziyun's perspective, the strength that Lu Yu has just unleashed is completely beyond doubt. A vague feeling, it seems that Lu Yu is stronger than himself. What are you thinking? Follow me closely. At this moment, Lu Yu reached out his hand and pulled up Ju Ziyun, then directly touched the position at the door. Everything is currently within Lu Yu's plan. It is obvious that with just a few words of effort, the reserve support troops have already been deployed. The footsteps are gradually approaching towards the two of them. Lu Yu is not a person who likes to pretend to be forced. With the soldiers prepared, it is impossible to kill them with bare hands. Why take risks when the hardware conditions are reasonable? At that time, Lu Yu had already carried the heavy rifle on the ground in his arms. Interestingly, it is completely out of proportion to Lu Yu's current figure. It seemed ready, and Lu Yu flashed directly into the corridor. The next second, a fierce gunfight broke out in the hallway. Boom boom boom. Subsequently, the recoil of the rifle in his hand was very strong, and Lu Yu could still hold it for the time being. Holding the rifle in his arms, he kept bombarding the soldiers in front of him. Even though Lu Yu's movements were slippery, since it was a gunfight, he naturally couldn't dodge all the bullets. Puzzy. Lu Yu gritted his teeth and a brilliant blood flower burst out on his leg. A bullet bit Lu Yu's thigh like this. The pain is fleeting. A warning sound came to my mind. Leg injury, temporary agility plus 0.9. Not an integer. It can be seen that the absorption of energy has shown a decreasing trend now. In the surveillance room, Dr. Bai covered his mouth with both hands and his pupils didn't enlarge. She watched with her own eyes as the soldiers in the corridor collapsed one by one. Lu Yu, holding a rifle in his hand, led Ju Ziyun to break out of the encirclement. Now the hall could not stop Lu Yu's footsteps. He quickly shuttled through the corpse with Ju Ziyun. To be honest, Dr. Bai's emotions in her eyes are very complicated now. She is both excited and scared. Lu Yu is not a good seedling, he is simply a first-class monster. Later, I was afraid because Dr. Bai also saw clearly that the situation was gradually becoming uncontrollable. If this continues, no one in the laboratory will be spared and must be killed by Lu Yu-Chuan. Dr. Bai took a deep breath, took out the phone inside the windbreaker, and immediately called Director Cui. In the underground laboratory of the capital of South Korea. Director Cui is lying on the operating table, with many pipes connected to his head. The instrument is making a sound. His eyes were sharp, his upper body was exposed, and his muscles were exceptionally developed. At this moment, he has just undergone brain modification. Now he appears calm and composed on the surface, but in his heart, there is a surging undercurrent. He was originally a fighter in the company, but a very sharp weapon trained within the company. So after undergoing renovation, there is no need to be isolated separately. On the phone, he learned about Dr. Bai's situation and also learned about the changes in the laboratory. A group of well-trained and fully armed soldiers were killed crazy by a child who used to be the tail of a crane. Shiba. Are all the soldiers just trash cans? Not even a child can solve it. You protect yourself, I'll bring someone along later. At this moment, Director Cui hung up the phone cursing and his gaze was filled with a fierce killing intent. Get ready, let's go to the southern laboratory. At this moment, Director Cui instructed the soldiers around him. And he placed his gloves on his hand, covering the black lines spreading out on his arms. After tidying up the team, Director Cui led people directly out of the laboratory. In the laboratory on the isolated mountain. The terrifying gunfire has gradually stopped. Lu Yu and Ju Ziyun are still walking through the laboratory. I don't know how many rifles have been changed in my hand, but Lu Yu is still blocking in front of Ju Ziyun, constantly moving forward. Looking at Lu Yu in front of him, Ju Ziyun swallowed his saliva. Where is the tail of the crane? This is a god of killing. Is it difficult? Lu Yu, like himself, hides his strength and is waiting for this day. Although Ju Ziyun has undergone physical transformation and developed his motor nerves, it is not difficult for him to achieve the same level as Lu Yu. Under year after year of drug injections, her personality was filled with violence. But what she prefers more than letting enemies fly with flesh and blood is strategy. Lu Yu grabbed Ju Ziyun and the two quickly arrived at the surveillance room, one in front and one behind. Because of his understanding of the plot, Lu Yu knew that Dr. Bai, the sixth in command, had been lurking in the surveillance room since the start of the major clean-up. I don't know if it's for surveillance or to satisfy her twisted psychology. However, if we can successfully catch this scumbag, things will be much simpler. Bang! Lu Yu broke open the door of the surveillance room with one foot, and his rifle also penetrated in. He cautiously searched around and found that there was not even a ghost inside early in the morning. Dr. Bai, this old six, actually slipped away. I guess it's because I've been watching surveillance all along. However, at this moment, Lu Yu didn't pay much attention. It's good to run away, but now there are only two living people left in the laboratory, myself and Ju Ziyun. All the soldiers have been killed by Lu Yu. The two of them walked towards the laboratory, one in front and one behind. Bang! As he passed through several operating rooms inside, Lu Yu had a clear intention and smashed the tempered glass on the walls with a few punches. This cabinet with tempered glass is embedded on the wall. And what is inside is exactly the medication used by these insane physicians on a daily basis. Help me install it, there are still many over there. At this moment, Lu Yu pointed to Ju Ziyun and pointed to several cabinets beside him that had been smashed by him. Watching Lu Yu keep these potions in his shirt pocket, Ju Ziyun looked puzzled. What kind of plane is Lu Yu working on? Isn't this poison? Ju Ziyun frowned and murmured. These drugs are exactly inhibitors. For these experimental subjects, it is truly a poison. It can be said that one bottle of tetanus, 2 bottles meet ancestors. Ju Ziyun wished he could destroy them, but Lu Yu regarded them as treasures. Don't hesitate to waste your escape time and take these away. Outside the laboratory, Director Cui has already rushed over in a helicopter. Due to the urgency of the matter, we had to dispatch helicopters. Accompanied by Director Cui's landing, fully armed soldiers followed closely behind. These soldiers look more professional than those in the laboratory. Director Cui has a strong aura, wearing a windbreaker and holding a cigarette at his mouth. Be careful, there is an experimental subject that is very powerful. Dr. Bai waited outside the laboratory early in the morning. Director Cui ignored Dr. Bai's words and waved his hand, leading the person directly into the laboratory. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. You are a defective product. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the laboratory. Lu Yu walked forward with a wary expression, his eyes shining exceptionally sharp. And Ju Ziyun followed behind Lu Yu honestly. All the threats in the laboratory have been completely resolved by Lu Yu, and now the two only need to step out of the door of this laboratory. Everything has come to an end. Lu Yu held a gun in his right hand and walked towards the exit with Ju Ziyun. The experimental building was designed for easy management. So in the early stages of construction, there was only one gate. When the light outside slowly shone into their eyes, Lu Yugang just breathed a sigh of relief. A series of footsteps made Lu Yu have to be vigilant again. This is not the sound of a person's footsteps. Lu Yu patted Ju Ziyun behind her, gesturing for her to stop now. I saw a pair of sunglasses stuck on the bridge of Director Cui's nose, wearing a pitch-black windbreaker. Place both hands inside the pocket of the shirt. Click. Standing in front of Director Ju Cui was a row of soldiers. However, this team is completely different from those in the laboratory. They were all dressed in neat white clothes, with a bulletproof vest on the outside of their bodies and a uniform duckbill cap on their heads. Holding heavy firearms in their hands, they looked at the two of them with fierce eyes. At this moment, Director Cui nodded slightly and slowly raised his arm, seemingly not in a hurry to shoot at the two people. "Take them down, don't kill them, just cripple them." After explaining this sentence, Director Cui put down his arms directly, and under the sunglasses, there were a pair of sharp eyes. "That may disappoint you." At this moment, Lu Yu sneered, not intending to let these guys succeed. "Hold the pistol in your right hand and pick it up in an instant." Bang! The bullet suddenly shot out of the pistol and plunged into the skull of the first soldier. After leaving a regretful expression on the soldier's face, he lay straight on the ground. And Lu Yu's shot can also be considered as the official start of the war. Bang bang! The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder, and both sides began to passionately shoot each other. However, Lu Yu only had one pistol on his side, which was in stark contrast to the opponent's powerful heavy weapon. Bang! After placing Ju Ziyun in a dead corner by the wall, Lu Yu rolled over and lifted a corpse directly from the ground. This is a top-quality meat shield. The gunfire continued, and the enemy's well-trained soldiers were constantly relying on heavy firepower to suppress it, gradually narrowing Lu Yu's position. Poo-poo-poo-poo. Countless bullets poured down on the body in front of Lu Yu, many of which hit him. Although injured, all of this turned into nourishment for Lu Yu's evolution. Big arm injury, absorbs metal, constitution plus 0.9. The prompt sound of the system appeared in Lu Yu's mind. Shiba, he's just a child, tossing around for so long. At this moment, Director Cui was a bit angry. The situation was a bit deadlocked, and he didn't expect that bringing his most elite troops over would make it so difficult to tidy up a child. Director Cui picked up a rifle on the ground, changed the bullets, and started shooting wildly at Lu Yu's side. Stubborn. Stubborn. The muzzle sprayed flames, almost engulfing Lu Yu's small body. Even so, Lu Yu remained steadfast and unwavering. On the contrary, the breath is starting to climb higher and higher. Bang dang. Director Cui viciously threw the rifle in his arms onto the ground. If he didn't do it now, when would he wait? The longer time drags on, the more variables there are. Boom. Director Cui took charge of the situation and punched Landiu with a straight punch. He is extremely fast, surpassing any experimental subject. At this moment, Ziyun began to hesitate. She didn't expect someone surnamed Cui to come and surround them. And the action was so fast. She believed that Lu Yu could never take this punch. If Director Cui knocks down Lu Yu, then she will be the next one. Brush. I saw that Zhu Ziyun reached out with one hand, trying to intercept Director Cui's attack. Next second. A figure has just passed by before. Even a long string of afterimages appeared behind me. It's exactly Lu Yu. He was faster than Zhu Ziyun and stepped forward with one hand, fiercely resisting Director Cui's fist. Bang! Immediately after, Landiu swept his legs and roared past, approaching Director Cui's head. Bang! Director Cui is still experienced in practical combat. When Lu Yu's leg sweep was about to blow out his head, he still lifted his arm and forcefully blocked it. However, the body was still bombarded by this tremendous force, like a detached arrow, and was directly thrown into one side of the wall. Help me clear the obstacles, you can solve these soldiers' problems. I'll hand over this goods to you. At this moment, Lu Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. After seeing the smooth and flowing operation of Lu Yu just now, Zhu Ziyun's heart was stirred. However, after raising an eyebrow slightly, he followed Lu Yu's instructions. Two monster-level characters also collaborated for the first time at this moment. West 8. Director Cui slowly climbed up from the wall, and his windbreaker had already been torn several times. Sunglasses have long been missing. And those eyes, now bloodshot, looked as if they were about to eat Lu Yu. Go to hell. Director Cui exerted a strong force under his feet, and his body rushed towards Lu Yu like a spring. Blow out a powerful punch, straight at Lu Yu's head. He doesn't care if he can bring Lu Yu back alive anymore. Boom. Lu Yu clenched his fists and marched forward to face the enemy. Two fists, one big and one small, were directly slammed together, even creating a fierce sensation around them. After this round of punches, the two quickly parted ways, and Director Cui's arm was a bit difficult to lift. It seems that the punch he just hit broke a few of his finger bones. In this punch, it turned out that Lu Yu had the upper hand. Shiba, he's just a little bastard. Can you die quietly? At this moment, Director Cui showed a fierce expression and his eyes were fixed on Landiu. He didn't understand why this seemingly inconspicuous child was so firm. Hee, you call me a little bastard, are you polite? So what are you? At this moment, Lu Yu twisted his neck and looked mocking. Strictly speaking, Director Cui, you are truly a pitiful person. You are just a defective product that failed the experiment. You may not even be considered a person now, right? Lu Yu's eyes were full of disdain, and Director Cui was no match for him at all. Shiba. You bastard. The failure of the experiment has always been a thorn in Director Cui's heart. He is not considered a complete experimental subject. The side effects brought by it are also quite significant. The reason why he has been wearing gloves is precisely because of the failure of the experiment, leaving behind an eternal creation. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Who can stop me? Director Cui. It's just a toy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Who can stop me? Director Cui. It's just a toy. The atmosphere took a sharp turn and the two quickly got into battle again. Director Cui is very anxious and eager to take down Lu Yu. But unfortunately, Lu Yu is just stronger than him. Bang! Ugh! Lu Yu's movements were smooth, and under the flowing punches and kicks, Director Cui almost got hit and spat out. Over time, Director Cui no longer even had the qualification to compete with Lu Yu. Now he is lying on the ground like a dead dog, panting fiercely. Director Cui, I know you're in a hurry. But don't rush yet. At this moment, Lu Yu shook the blood stained on his fist and looked at Director Cui, who had been beaten to near disability. Cough cough, Shiba. Director Cui's mouth is really tough, it's always like this. Although he was beaten down by Lu Yu-Tong, his backbone is not as strong as usual now. Lu Yu didn't hesitate either, waved his big hand and grabbed Director Cui's neck directly. Now Director Cui looked at Lu Yu with a struggling expression on his face. Although both hands have been broken by Lu Yu, they are still struggling in vain. It is evident that there is still a desire for survival. Lu Yu dragged Director Cui's body directly to Ju Ziyun's side. Now all the soldiers in the corridor have been killed by Ju Ziyun, without any survivors. Fortunately, this girl was not injured. Lu Yu's situation is not bad either, although he suffered several gunshot wounds on his body. However, it is still in the stage of recovery. Very good, isn't it? Watching Director Cui being pinched by Lu Yu's neck, Ju Ziyun couldn't help but start praising Lu Yu. Although Director Cui is a very failed experimental subject, it must be said that his strength is definitely overwhelming that of ordinary people. Now their escape plan has finally been implemented. Cough cough. At this moment, Director Cui was still coughing violently, and his eyes were fixed on Landiu. You little rascal. Shiba, the group won't let it go. Before Director Cui could finish speaking, Lu Yu's wrist strength increased. Come on. Director Cui's neck was broken like this by Lu Yu, and he was completely cold. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't control it. At this moment, Lu Yu also sneered and wanted to mock your Grandpa Lu. First of all, you have to live. Outside the laboratory, Dr. Bai paced back and forth, clearly feeling very uneasy in her heart. Her face was sad, and her eyebrows were twisted into fried dough twists, so she kept staring at the door of the laboratory. Now the gunfire inside has disappeared, and there is no sound at all. In theory, Director Cui's strength is not weak. Does this mean it has already ended? It must be like this, that monster must have died. At this point, Dr. Bai can only use this method to give himself some motivation. With so many soldiers, it can be considered that they have deployed their troops. Plus Director Cui, can't we still win a little ghost? Soon, she saw it. At the entrance of the laboratory, two figures slowly walked out. Due to the sunlight shining overhead, it was a bit dazzling and she couldn't quite distinguish it clearly. Director Cui. At this moment, Dr. Bai tentatively called out. And in response to her, it was not the voice of Director Cui. Dr. Bai, it's a pity that Director Cui has already passed away. At this moment, the dazzling sunlight disappeared and was replaced by a thin yet slender figure. I saw that Lu Yu was covered in blood, but his eyes were bright and lively. At the moment he saw Dr. Bai, he was smiling. Done. Shiba, it's all done. At this moment, Dr. Bai wants to escape. Her eyelids kept bouncing, her pupils contracted, and even her legs began to tremble. After all, Director Cui died at the hands of Lu Yu, so there is no suspense about oneself who has not undergone any transformation. Bang! A gunshot shattered the silence. The bullet was like an arrow departing from the string, directly smashing Dr. Bai's right leg and knee into pieces. 7 steps away, the gun is the fastest. Lu Yu's shot was steady, accurate, and ruthless, adding a hint of despair to Dr. Bai's tense mood. Ah! Shiba, my leg. You're crazy. Ah! Dr. Bai immediately let out a pig-like roar from his mouth. She never thought that she would really fall. And it fell into the hands of Lu Yu. It's a good seedling, but at this moment, Dr. Bai can't accept it at all. However, as she watched Lu Yu approach with a dark pistol, her pants got wet because of her survival instinct. The management of facial expressions is gradually starting to crumble. Ignoring the pain on his right knee, Dr. Bai knelt down like a dog, praying for landing feathers. Her hands were rubbing repeatedly, like a fly. Lu Yu, there must be some misunderstanding here. It's not the doctor's intention. Let me go, how about it? Let me go, okay. It's not Lu Yu who can respond to Dr. Bai. But it's the second bullet. Boom. This shot shattered Dr. Bai's other leg as well. Even kneeling is a luxury for her now. Ah! My legs. Dr. Bai is almost crazy, her body curled up into a ball. Now it can be said that she is full of embarrassing situations. And this scene should also be seen by Zhu Ziyun. After all, Zhu Ziyun also hates this Dr. Bai. But just as Lu Yu wanted to call her out, discovered that this girl had disappeared from the scene early in the morning. There is no trace of Zhu Ziyun around, and with Lu Yu's current strength, it is difficult to capture Zhu Ziyun's movements. That's right, the collaboration between the two has come to an end. Now successfully breaking through the encirclement of the laboratory, with utmost benevolence and righteousness. Moreover, Lu Yu also knew that Zhu Ziyun had her own thoughts and plans. I reckon she's about to disguise herself as Amnesia and be picked up by an honest family, right? Lu Yu was also too lazy to manage, because Zhu Ziyun was originally someone outside of his plan. At this moment, Dr. Bai's eyes were filled with red blood, and tears flowed down his eyes. Now she, looking at Lu Yu, is no longer as aloof as before, only filled with fear. You can take a nap first. Lu Yu sneered and cut him into a hand knife, knocking Dr. Bai unconscious with a single blow. Not killing her now is precisely because keeping her has a great effect. Dragging Dr. Bai's body, Lu Yu slowly disappeared into the laboratory area. 40 minutes later. The headquarters sedan rushed to the outside of the laboratory. A man got off the car in a hurry. Looking at the mess on the ground, he furrowed his brow slightly. The next second, he took out his phone and started reporting. The experimental subject has escaped, Mr. Cui confirmed death, and Dr. Bai is nowhere to be found. The tone of command from the headquarters is coming in unison. Immediately lead the team, regardless of life or death, we must catch them back. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Transforming Youth. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the blink of an eye, time arrived in 2018. Cold country, still that cold country. In a suburban area, a standalone villa. This place is filled with the sounds of birds and the fragrance of flowers, and the basement of the huge house is truly spectacular. The construction of this basement is very interesting, just like Dr. Bai's laboratory back then. At this point, Lu Yu was no longer a child, and now he has undergone a complete transformation. He is 8 feet tall, with short and sharp hair, and his eyes have become even more bright and lively. Over the years, the changes have enabled Lu Yu to successfully become an adult. Now he is holding a potion box in his hand, with many potion test tubes densely arranged on it. Nowadays, Lu Yu no longer needs to directly inject this medicine into his body. They drink it directly as a beverage. After the last potion bottle was consumed by Lu Yu, he smiled contentedly. Feeling the subtle changes on my body. Succeeded in swallowing the drug. Power plus 0.3. That's right, it has become stronger, just not so obvious. Is it already so rare now? At this moment, Lu Yu shook the medicine bottle in his hand with some regret, and it was evident. After so many years, even the attenuation of the medicine has reached this level. It can be imagined how much medication he has consumed over the years. Lu Yu is not talking nonsense, just call out his attribute panel. Host. Lu Yu, Power. 392.3, Constitution. 388.2, Agile. 379.6, Intelligence. 398.4, Skill. None. Special status. None. Rating. S+. Now, Lu Yu's various data have reached the level of explosive statistics, and he has the strength of S+. Among the experimental subjects, Lu Yu is considered outstanding. 10 years have passed, and although Lu Yu's data panel is so exaggerated at this time, it is actually not. Zhu Ziyun's data should be more than 100 points stronger than his own, and he is truly an SS level. And next to Lu Yu, there was still a person sitting. It's Dr. Bai, whose hair looks a bit grayish. At this moment, her temperament is very different from a few years ago. There are obvious wrinkles on the corners of the eyes, and above the bridge of the nose, there is a pair of big panda eyes. I don't know if it's due to the CPU of Lu Yu, but now Dr. Bai has completely lost his previous demeanor. The only thing that can be felt in Dr. Bai is humility. Who would have thought that the creator of the Tang Tang renovation plan was now secretly imprisoned by Lu Yu, and his whole day's work was to make medicine for him? At this moment, Dr. Bai probably suffered a lot from Lu Yu's hands and looked at him with a pleasing expression on his face. Cough cough, Your Excellency Lu Yu, you really have exceptional talent. At this moment, Dr. Bai looked at Lu Yu with a flattering expression on his face. She also knew that the reason why she had lost both legs and now survived was precisely because of her skills. Lu Yu needs his own skills. I thought Lu Yu had made so many potions, even if he used antidote, he probably wouldn't come back. In less than 2 months, Lu Yu may suffer a backlash and die tragically. But who knew that Lu Yu wasn't just alive? This kind of medicine, once taken by Lu Yu, lasts for several years. Previously, Dr. Bai tried to poison Lu Yu directly by increasing the dosage or using it as a meme. She found that Lu Yu was just like nothing else, but getting stronger and stronger. Now it has even reached the level of S+. This is undoubtedly an impossible task. This is not a matter of talent anymore, Lu Yu is just a monster. Now, Dr. Bai also has his own ideas. It's good to stay by Lu Yu's side like this all the time. As long as you don't die, there's still hope for everything. Give me less BB, that's useless. Make your medicine. At this moment, a cold gleam flashed in Lu Yu's eyes, as if he was about to crush her head in the next second. Upon hearing these words, Dr. Bai swallowed his saliva and began his work. The reason why Dr. Bai was not killed in the beginning was because he had the ability to make drugs, and only Dr. Bai had this ability from all over the company. Now that Lu Yu has direct control over her, it is for better medication. Anyway, there is a system in place, so there won't be any problem with how much she eats in a day. At first, when Lu Yu drank the potion, there was a feeling of strong liquor entering his throat. Now it's like drinking a drink, there's no feeling at all. Not only that. Lu Yu also learned a lot of useful information from Dr. Bai's mouth. For example, the history of Dr. Bai's experiment has been 20 years. That is to say, when she was 30 years old, this experiment had already begun, and there were still many people supporting Dr. Bai's plan at that time. At first, it was just to transform the human body and make the virus nowhere to escape. But now it has completely become a production chain for creating monsters. Not just the cold country. There are many wealthy people in the world. The chaebols have all joined this plan. With no shortage of money, there are so many laboratories in the local area of the cold country. And it also confirms that the group of experimental subjects led by Lu Yu back then. It is the second batch of experiments. This batch of experiments is mainly focused on the brain, so it seems somewhat inhumane. Countless experimental subjects died on the operating table. The first group of subjects to undergo the experiment were Yu Ziyun's mother. Actually, they are all very hard-working people. Some experimental subjects don't even know why they were caught here. And the major cleanups that Lu Yu went through in the past actually occurred in every laboratory. And there have been quite a few incidents. As long as the experimental period is up, Dr. Bai will directly order the clean up of this laboratory. However, often during the process of massacre, one would look for a few children who are more pleasing to the eye, control them, and directly make them their subordinates. This Director Cui is actually the same. It's just that the subsequent experiment failed, and there's nothing we can do about it. As for the animal behavior that Lu Yu still doesn't know, Dr. Bai has definitely done it before. When I come down later, I hope your potion has already been adjusted. At this moment, Lu Yu left a sentence in a daze and went upstairs. But Dr. Bai now dared not have any resistance in his heart. Now I can only shiver in the basement with pharmaceuticals. Yes. Upon arriving upstairs, Lu Yu brewed a cup of coffee for himself. In order to encourage himself to use more reagents, Lu Yu basically made every effort to stay up without sleeping. After all, Lu Yu also knows that before leaving the mountain, he must be as strong as he can cultivate. At this moment, a woman with black hair appeared behind Lu Yu. She was dressed in white and had many hollow designs on her body, especially the flesh-colored collar, which was very attractive. Park Mei Yen, I've said it all, don't keep doing this. At this moment, Lu Yu's face was speechless. This girl is very sickly attached to herself. Don't you like it? By the way, another stronghold has been discovered. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.